A renewed focus on attracting tourists to Ireland from India, the UAE and the Asia-Pacific region will receive millions of euro in government funding. Minister for Enterprise, Tourism and Employment Peter Burke set out his department's €4.7 billion capital investment strategy for the next 5 years. The expenditure is part of the government's National Development Plan. A new era beckons for Irish tourism, according to plans for the sector. To discuss all of this further, I'm joined on the line now by Seán Lally. Seán, of course, co-owner of Hotel Woodstock here in Ennis and the chair of the Clare Tourism Advisory Forum. Seán, good morning to you.
Good morning, Alan, and Happy New Year to you and your listeners.
Happy New Year to you too, and I'm sure you're even happier seeing that the government is going to pump money into bringing visitors. You know, anytime we talk to you about foreign visitors, we speak about the American market, North America, Europe, places like that. But India, the UAE, and the Asia-Pacific region, are these relatively untapped, or has not enough work been done up to this point to bring these visitors to our shores?
They probably are untapped, and that's what the Minister said. And I must say I'm very impressed with Minister Burke and how he's taken to tourism. And we're now under the brief of enterprise, which is where we should have been for years. And this is exactly, where we need to be, because, we have a huge business in Ireland, and there's, 240,000 jobs involved in tourism in the country. So it is very important. I'm delighted to see that he's expanding into new markets. But just come back to the United States, say in this region in particular, and I suppose personally speaking here in Woodstock, the US is a huge market for us. After Ireland, it's our biggest market, and I think it's very, very important. And I see that he's listed that hopefully there'll be additional flights to the States as well. I know some people might call for moving away from the States a little bit and diversifying ourselves, but it has been exceptionally good to us along the West Coast, and in particular in the golf side of things. We look at the amount of golf business coming in this year now with the Walker Cup and the Irish Open in Trump Doonbeg, and the Ryder Cup coming shortly afterwards in Adair. It's very, very strong, and it's a good fit with the US market as well, and it's the right type of client as well, because they're a very, very high spending tourist, and they're very, very good contacts. So I'm delighted to see the US is still there. In terms of the Asian market, I suppose the devil is in the detail there. Yes, there is an opportunity there. There's no doubt about that. But one of the biggest dramas we find as a hotelier here is when you're dealing with agents who are booking in Asian business, they want a 4-week cancellation deadline. So this is at the back of your head. We've only 67 rooms here, so am I really going to give a third of them up, knowing that they could be cancelled in 4 weeks' time? So the whole visa side of it needs to be looked at. So if we are going to grow that market, great, but we need to get to grips with the visa, and that 4-week cancellation is a big drama at the moment. Now, I haven't heard of any change in that, but the devil is in the detail in that whole space.
And a key part of the strategy is new direct flights from countries including India and the United Arab Emirates. And I guess how critical is improved air access to attracting visitors beyond Dublin, or even it brings to mind, we see North American Airlines taking the Irish government to task over the passenger cap. They want that done away with, which I presume, Seán, you would be like to see it done away with as well, if we're going to bring in a lot more visitors from places like India, the UAE and the Asia-Pacific region. It will be needed.
100%, Alan. I feel very strongly about this. We are an island nation. 95% of the people that come to Ireland are going to go through air. Dublin, whether we like it or not, is the biggest market out there, and I think is nearly high 90s again in terms of the percentage of people who come through Dublin Airport. Now, I suppose the government probably need to look at how they could balance that to get more to the 4 airports along the west coast from Knock, Shannon, Kerry and Cork, because they're probably only operating at 50-60% capacity, whereas Dublin is nearly maxed out. So, but having an airport cap in Dublin is daft in my eyes, because airlines aren't going to sit waiting for the Irish government to get it sorted, and they're off planning routes to other countries because they need certainty, and they plan a number of years in advance, and they're not leaving a kind of a plane sitting over on a runway somewhere destined for Ireland, until we get it sorted out, and the biggest problem with that is we have an awful lot of Americans in particular that would fly into Dublin and fly out to Shannon. So we've just cut ourselves off from that market, or the additional market that we could have picked up on. So I feel very strongly on this. But obviously, I feel very strongly then on the other side, once we get them in and get the cap lifted, but it's taken too long to get the cap lifted. I know the Minister is making moves to get it done, and it should not be. I feel strongly in this. This is a national thing, is kind of huge for the country, and it shouldn't be it shouldn't be up to Fingal County Council to make a decision like this. This is a government decision. It's so important for Ireland as an overall thing, even apart from tourism, for business as well. It is so important. And I note as well that the Minister has mentioned about having a fund for setting up new businesses, and I think that's great, because the stronger that business and FDI is in Ireland, the more people we're going to get in, be it business tourists or a tourist. So that is good to see. Even if you look at the likes of, and he's targeting firms in Ireland that want to take over the world, or not take over the world, export into the world at kind of a high end. And even if you look at, for example, Stripe, two young fellas in Limerick a few years ago set it up. Now they're headquartered in Dublin and San Francisco with 8,500 employees. I think that's absolutely unbelievable. And if you look at what the IDA has achieved over the last number of years, they have been a massive success story for Ireland. They really have, and we've outperformed on a world stage in terms of pulling this American, in particular American foreign direct investment in here. And I know there was a lot of talk over the last number of years over corporation tax, but it's still there. 17% growth last year. If you take out the Apple surplus, that's 9% growth, or almost 4 billion up on what the government predicted this year. So it's still there. Those firms still want to do business here. We're English speaking, we're flexible, and we're exporting into the EU, and we're in the EU. So we still have a huge amount of pluses.
We've been touching on the passenger cap at Dublin Airport, which is important, Seán, but obviously our main concern is Shannon Airport and how that can grow and what opportunities might be there for it, and then those like yourselves in the tourism hospitality business within Clare. What opportunities could this investment from the government in regions like India, the UAE and the Asia Pacific part of the world open up locally for Shannon Airport in particular? I know you're talking about its importance for American visitors who would fly into Dublin but fly out of Shannon. Might be less of a consideration for those heading home to India and the UAE and elsewhere, but how could Shannon benefit?
Maybe so, but I suppose China in particular has always had a huge link with Shannon, and they've been over for years looking at Shannon, looking at the tax-free zone there, looking at, the Prime Minister of China visited a farm at 6 Mile Bridge, looking at the whole setup there. So there is a huge connection to this region. China is one of the biggest countries in the world, one of the biggest economies in the world. A huge amount of trade comes into Europe. You've seen the Taoiseach over in China for the last week, developing relationships. Obviously, we're going to have the presidency of the EU in the next 6 months, so that's a huge opportunity as well for us to strengthen relations with China. There is, especially if we get direct access and improve the whole visa setup there, I think there is certainly an opportunity to get more in from the Asian market. I wouldn't put all our eggs in it though, because it is a developing market. We can't turn our back on the US and the UK and other parts of Europe as well, which are the main markets. I'm also delighted to see more of a focus on Canada, because I think Canada is a huge opportunity because of the relationship with the US. They're not travelling south as much as they were in the past. They have a population of 40 million. 15% of that population claim an Irish descent. So we have a kind of a natural affinity with Canada, and I think that is one of the countries as well that's kind of a huge opportunity for us to grow business.
Just finally, Seán, a tourism policy oversight group has been set up to monitor delivery of this. How important is accountability to ensure the strategy actually delivers on the ground? And with your Clare Tourism Advisory Forum hat on, what role will local tourism forums like your own play in shaping how this policy is implemented regionally?
Minister Burke has mentioned a couple of times that, he's doing all this for tourism, and I must say I'm very impressed. There's no point in doing all these things unless you see a kind of a delivery. Now, unfortunately, the delivery last year was 6% down, so they were tough figures, and because the whole world is going through all sorts of challenges, and I suppose the only certainty in terms of tourism now is uncertainty. So that has always been a challenge when people are uncertain, they don't tend to travel. So it is challenging out there. But he does want to see a return on the investment. They're not going to write blank checks, and with the hope of getting improvements and increases in figures. They do want to see a return, and rightly so. And it's good to see this, and I think it'll hold everyone to account, and if the Tourism Ireland or Fáilte Ireland or whoever are saying that they're going to increase these figures, we need to deliver them. The other thing I'm impressed as well is that they're going to look at helping the airlines and subsidising the airlines to try and get more off-season stuff in. So they want the season to go from the February bank holiday weekend, St. Bridget's weekend, all the way through to November, which I welcome, because everyone wants to go to Ireland in June, July and August, but we need to spread the base a little bit, and that has been happening the last number of years, and the more of that we can do, the better. I think from a Clare perspective, we are right in the middle of the country. We have an international airport on our doorstep here in Shannon, with great connections and increased connections again for this year, and they're hoping for double-digit growth there again, which is great to see. So I think we're well suited to get it, especially with the amount of tourism and world-class tourism attractions on our doorstep here in the county. So fingers crossed, cautiously but optimistically, for a positive year in 2026.
Yeah, we certainly hope that is the case. Seán, thank you so much for joining us. Seán Lally there, co-owner of Hotel Woodstock here in Ennis and chair of the Clare Tourism Advisory Forum, with us on Thursday's Morning Focus.